Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fatphil, and today we're going to be talking about the Lightspeed bundles, and in particular, kind of talking about the blueprint for future Lightspeed bundles based on what I've seen from the current ones that they've offered. Yesterday we talked about what there are, now I'm going to talk about kind of the two buckets, two categories that they're using to help you catch up in this game, and why I think it's such a great idea. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, and of course, gotta give a shout out to my channel members, whether they're at the Wampa or Jedi Master tier, and to those who are on the council, even if you aren't yet granted the rank of Master. Thank you guys so much for putting your faith in me to provide good quality content to the community. Let's cover these Lightspeed bundles. The first one, obviously we need to cover here, at least in terms of like how it's impacting and the way it's meant to catch you up, is this Din Djarin bundle here to help you get Beskar or Mando. So, when you look at this pack, you're getting 5 characters, it's $20, and these characters right here are needed to get Beskar or Mando. Now, I have a guide, it's one of my most watched videos. It's a very easy unlock to get Beskar or Mando. You only need like gear 8, gear 9 on these characters, not very difficult. You look at my account at over 10 million galactic power. I only have Grief and Mando at Relic, and they're both Relic 3, so this pack would help me in every sense of the word. It'd help me in every single character in some way, shape, or form. However, the reason that these characters are not at Relic levels or more of them is because they're good, but I've had other priorities. Other things come up. I can't afford to just Relic all 5 of these characters in hopes of, getting the teams together that I need for them. So I just have never been able to do that. Even my Grief and Mando only being Relic 3 because I've just had other priorities along the way. So I think the first blueprint is finding, and I can tell you from opponents that I've faced, guild mates and things, these are characters that a lot of the player base is not really putting relics onto anymore. As good as Grief and Mando are, particularly Grief being very important for the Fennec counter to Lord Vader, I think less and less players are really investing in their relics here because there's bigger and better things to be putting your resources into, and I can't blame you. And I think Capital Games saw that here with Din Djarin, that these were characters that at one point everybody had at relics, and now less and less are happening, and a good way to catch up players across the vast majority of this game is let's give you some things that maybe you don't have, right? The vast majority of the player base could benefit from this, not just those in the early stages, but a lot of players in that later stage of the game would benefit from a pack like this. So I think this was a really good decision on their part. They saw the need that these characters, people aren't really interacting with them beyond just getting Beskar or Mando. So that's kind of the first category. And that category kind of fits of, hey, people aren't interacting with them because it's just not helping them towards other things. Rey is a perfect example of that. You think of the Resistance faction as a whole, most of the characters you needed to get Rey are not requirements for other farms in this game. Think JTR, I think, is the only overlap she had with something. But nobody else, I mean, you could use other characters in her event, but JTR was the only overlap that she has right now. And so this was a character a lot of players skipped because why would I farm her when I can go invest my resources into something that might be better in one game mode or another, but also helps me progress towards something else? So Capital Games recognized that and was like, hey, we could put out this pack that almost everybody in the game could benefit from, that the vast majority of the player base could use a character like Rey. Before she was released, you think there was probably 3 times as many Supreme Leader Kylo Rens as there were Rey, and yet Rey and Kylo were released on the exact same day. Literally the exact same day, exact same time. So that shows you just how many more players were going for Kylo. Now, there were some performance issues there and things, but in the grand scheme of things as well, Kylo had far more opportunities to build from where Rey did not. So in my opinion, I think they saw that as an opportunity. Hey, let's release something that is going to help a lot of players catch up where they're just not interacting with these things and give them a boost to their roster. So that was the first category. And that category kind of continues to make sense as you look at this Rebel bundle. This one I'd say is kind of, has a foot in each of my camps. I haven't mentioned the second one yet. So you look at the Phoenix characters. Outside of Hera, the only thing you did with Phoenix, got them to gear 8, beat Thrawn, and never touch them again. Hera, obviously profundity requirement. So that's, hey, we're trying to give you a faction that players just aren't interacting with, that, hey, they got really good with Captain Rex now, but players don't really have a Relic Phoenix to take advantage of him. But the other kind of the pack is things that players were interacting with in the early stages of the game, that they're spending all this time farming these things in the early stages of the game to help them in other areas of Galaxy of Heroes, that they were kind of early things you built. Think of your characters that you need here for Jedi Knight Luke, like Lando, Jedi Master Luke, Old Ben being a very common relic, Wedge and Biggs, Jedi Master Luke. This is kind of a Jedi Master Luke bundle, but in a way, also characters that players were spending a lot of their early stages at Galaxy of Heroes farming because they needed to get them for ships or Jedi Knight Luke, whatever it was. But I think even more so with this one, it's kind of, I'd say a foot in each camp, more trending towards players weren't really interacting. But the Finalizer bundle. This is something that everybody was doing early game. Hey, go get the Finalizer ships for Kylo. Go get them so that way you can get the Executor too. You think this is an Executor bundle as much as it is Finalizer, with Vader, Boba, Bosk, and Cad Bane all here. I think this is a perfect example of something where they recognize the vast majority of the player base early in the game is building these things. Similarly with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. If you look at Arnold's account, look at his free-to-play account, look at Nooch Too Good's free-to-play account. Both of those guys in their early accounts built Kylo early on. Before they had Kenobi, before they had anything else, they were building Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. They built the Executor because they're accessible. They're very good. And I think Capital Games saw that and said, well, we don't really want players spending the first 2 years of their journey in Galaxy of Heroes building Kylo, building Executor, and building this one other guy who happened to also be released with those first slew of packs, and that would be Starkiller, right? Think, like, those were some of the first things that Arnold and Nooch built in those accounts was their Starkiller, their Kylo, their Executor, and even, Sith Eternal, I think, for both of them as well, that maybe, we'll get to him in a second here. But those were kind of the big things that they built. So in my humble opinion, when I look at these packs and I see that the two categories that they're fitting in is you either were spending a lot of your early time in the game building these things when we want you to build something else, or you were spending a lot of your time, or you weren't spending any of your time building these things because they didn't help you get anything else. So with those two blueprints in mind, the next Lightspeed bundles that potentially could be coming need to fit into one of those two categories. Either needs to be something that everybody in the game has and spends a lot of time farming. And when we say everybody, that a lot of players spend a lot of time farming it. Or something that players really aren't interacting with anymore because it's not giving them a ton of value in the game. So let's look at a few factions that kind of make sense to me. The first is Empire, and I mentioned Sith Eternal. Think of the Endor raid right now. They just kind of, they have that, and you've got these Imperial Trooper characters, TIE Fighter Pilot, Royal Guard, Krennic, Tarkin. You have these characters who, unless you're building Sith Eternal, you're not really interacting with them. So I think the Empire faction, if they got something like that, we could see this. I could see them giving you Relic 3 on some of these random Imperial Troopers who maybe we're just not using anymore. Look at what they did with the Rebels. I think these would be some characters, not all of these, but that some of these characters here and there would be ones that they would maybe give you in a pack because, hey, we're going to make you go farm Iden. We're going to make you farm Moff Gideon, but we'll give you a Shore Trooper, Stormtrooper, Magma Trooper, right? We don't mind giving you those things. So that is one faction that I think potentially we could see something like this. The next one that I would actually throw on here and say, hey, potential, is the Old Republic. We already got Karth and T3 via the Rey ships pack. They were released there. But I look at the Old Republic as a faction, and again, thinking of Sith Empire as well, kind of thrown in here. Malak is something that a lot of players would chase. Malak is something a lot of players spend a lot of time doing that takes a significant amount of resources in the grand scheme of things. Would they release a pack to maybe help you get Malak faster? Again, they've shown that they dropped the Rebels down to Relic 3. So maybe they drop these down to Gear 12s, right? Maybe they experiment with that a little bit. Hey, we're going to give you a whole bunch of characters. They're only going to Gear 12, but it's going to help you get Malak. Like that. There's potential for that. But I think this is another thing where a lot of players have him, a lot of players go for him, but do they really want you spending, however long farming all the wrecks you need for him? Or would they rather you spend that time doing something else? I think they're looking at these things and saying, what are players spending the vast majority of their time on that we'd rather them spend it on something else? And then finally, the last one, again, I could go into every single faction, but I'm looking at the big ticket stuff, and that comes into the Galactic Republic with Jedi Master Kenobi. Now, with this one, I'd be hesitant saying, hey, they're just going to give out a bunch of stuff, because he's significantly newer than anything else they've released. He's also how would I say this? his impact on the game, especially early on, if you don't have the right counters, is awful. And particularly once you get Commander Tano, it's even worse. But the one that I was really looking at and like, hey, maybe they would give you this is the 501st. So getting General Skywalker is not horridly bad. You know, the bigger issue at hand is you've now got to go relic your entire 501st. You've got to build up your entire 501st faction after getting him. So I could see them maybe releasing a pack like this where, hey, we're going to give you the 501st. Or we'll give you a Clone Trooper bundle. Maybe Galactic Republic Jedi that, hey, you know, you can build a Qui-Gon team, maybe help you make some progress towards Jedi Master Kenobi. Because you think that General Kenobi himself, Grandmaster Yoda being Relic 8 requirements for Jedi Master Kenobi himself, right there, the Relic 8s. Well, I don't think they would sell these guys in a pack because Kenobi's a raid character and Yoda is a journey guide. So they can't give you those, right? So there's high relics there. But you think Relic 3 on Mace, Qui-Gon, Ayla, if they gave you like Barriss and Plo Koon, gave you some of these characters at Relic 3s, I think that could be a pretty decent bundle. You know, Anakin and Ahsoka thrown in there too, maybe a Shock T, I don't know. But that could be another option where they're going to give you a pack like that, where they're going to throw in some characters, but maybe some ones that'll help you along towards getting Kenobi. So that way you're not spending however long getting this character. That way you can focus on the new stuff. Because again, these packs are all about trying to get you to focus on the new things. I say this every time we talk about them, that the true blueprint for these Lightspeed bundles is, I don't want you to spend time farming Kylo, farming Rey, farming Bam. I want you to spend that farming Cal, farming the Afras, Leia, Jabba. That's where I think they want you to focus. And I think the Executor bundle is even, the Finalizer bundle, sorry, it's doing that same thing, where I don't want you to spend time farming the Executor anymore, right? I don't want you to spend time farming this. I want you to work on Profundity or Leviathan. So that's my thoughts, guys. Again, I'd love to hear from you, but I think that is the blueprint, and hopefully you see that direction. Hopefully you see what that concept moving forward, that with any future Lightspeed bundles, they're going to fit into one of those two categories. Something that's very common that players spend a lot of time doing, that they want you to just be able to breeze through so that way you can focus on newer things. Or it's those things like I showed in that Empire faction where most people aren't really relicking Stormtrooper, Death Trooper, Magma Trooper, because they don't have the resources to do that. They're not needed for anything. But hey, maybe we'll give them to you, and that makes your item versus your team better. Gives you a little bit of help in a raid or something. So, again, let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate it, guys. And lastly, just to touch on this, now that I said that, and then it's like, oh, it popped in my head. Think of those Rebel characters here that they released in that bundle. That Rebel bundle looking awfully mighty nice, because when you look in the raid, and you look at the unit requirements there, they're giving you Akbar, they're giving you Wedge, they're giving you Lando, they're giving you Hera. Those right there are all characters that came in that bundle that you could use in this new raid. So let that be just something to think about there, that pack gets not infinitely, but gains a lot of value centered around that you could use them in the raid at Relic 3. Now, they might not score crazy well, but hey, it's better than 0. So, again, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Again, like, subscribe, comment. This is the end of the video. Hopefully you heard Zeus sneezing there. So if you heard Zeus sneezing, go ahead and like it. I love all of you. May the Force be with you. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.